Hello guys, today we'll talk a bit about this new add-on for Blender called Window Maker that allows you to create windows with just a click. In the description below, I'll leave the link from where you can download the add-on. And this add-on simply turns all faces of your object's geometry into fully procedural windows. You also get a full list of different parameters to customize and randomize the look of these windows. But the best thing about this add-on is that from these windows, it can create procedural holes inside your wall objects. And it works in such a way that new holes automatically get created as you add new windows. These holes also move as you move your windows around. And another cool thing is that even if this add-on is not free, you'll get 20% discount if during checkout you use my discount code, which is BlenderBash. Now we'll just go through some of the parameters of this add-on because it would take too much time to go through every single option there is. But if you want to get into every single little thing, here at the download page you can download its user manual that gets very specific, and you can check it out even before purchasing the add-on. So enough with the chit chat and let's get into it. So here, this is just an example. This is like just an object that contains only faces. The important thing with these faces, they need to be perpendicular to the XY plane. That's the important thing. And another thing you need to be careful about is to not have any loose geometry. So here, if I go into my object and I see this geometry right here, I need to be careful that there isn't like a vertex here or somewhere else where it's not connected to a face. So you need to have clean faces, not facing up or down, just facing left or right in all 360 degrees. So this is like a good example of it. Once you install the add-on, you will get this side panel BB windows. And once you select your object, you can click on this little arrow and create windows. Okay, so now these windows are created, and you can see that this panel gets populated with a list of expandable panels. And I'm going to just jump here at the almost at the end of it, where I'm just going to create holes in my object so that you can see better what's going on with the windows. So I just select create holes, and now you can see that my holes are created, and we'll go back to this in a second, but let's start from the beginning. So now we have a bunch of windows that are created, and you can see that if I isolate this object so it gets a bit clearer what's going on. So these windows are all facing inwards, obviously, and this is controlled by the orientation of the faces. So if I turn on my face orientation and if I go into edit mode, you can see that all these faces are oriented so that the blue part is inside and the red part is outside. And if for example I would to change the orientation of this face, you will see that outside the window will be faced in the wrong direction. But this is how you can control if the window is open on the inside or on the outside. So let's just undo this and let's get back to our demonstration. So let's start with this first mode thing. And here, since the geometry is organized in this way, I can show you only these two modes, and this one I will remember to get back to it later on. So we have this multiple window mode, which is this one that we're going to talk in a bit. And we have this fixed mode, which is actually windows that are fixed. So you don't have an opening, you cannot open them. It's just a frame and glass. And let's just turn off this face orientation so we see a bit better. And let's concentrate on this multiple thing. So what we got here, we got frame, and let's see what happens now. Let me just turn on the wireframe so we can see better what's going on. Okay, so we have the frame, and frame depth is this. So this is the frame depth. The inner frame and the outer frame are all getting like a bit bigger. This is what happens with frame depth. Then we have outer frame thickness. So this is our outer frame, and this is the thickness. So we can control that with this parameter. we have the inner frame thickness, which is the frame that gets open, the wing that is opening, that frame. You can see it right here. And we have the frame overlap. So frame overlap is this little thing. So I can, like, you can see what's going on a bit with these things. This is something that you will probably keep at 0.02 meters, which is 2 centimeters. And it's just a thing. If for some reason you need to change this value, it's just an option. And then you can adjust windows depth. And let me just show you what happens if I'm adjusting this. So this value will push the windows in or out. So this is very useful because if you want to see the faces on the facade of your object, you will also notice that it's not very natural for windows to be like in the same plane as the wall. So they probably want to go a bit inside, something like this maybe. Okay, let's keep it this way and let's move on. So glass, it's pretty simple. This is a glass that you can hide. So there is no glass, and you can set, if you show it, and you can also set its thickness, but this is also something that you want to keep at 0.01, which is 1 centimeter. Okay, then we have this opening thing. Now the opening, we have, let me isolate this Windows object once more. You can see that these all openings are like random. Not everything is open the same angle, and you can set it to be the same angle. And now you control the angle of all the windows like this. But if you set it to be a random, then this value angle here is the maximum angle that's going to be opened. So if you set it to 120, so it could be that one of the windows is going to be open 122 degrees, but it can be any number from 0 to 122, and this is what happens right now. Then what we got? We got probability closed open. What does this mean? So if you set it to 0, then the probability of windows to be open are none. So they will all be closed. And if you set it to 1, then all of them will be open. And you can set it somewhere in between. So some windows will be closed, some will be open, as you can see. And you can also change the seed of this random possibility. So you will change which are open, which are closed, and stuff like that. This is all to get a more random, natural look. You can imagine, like, if you have a building with, I don't know, 100 windows, and you need to like randomize all of them to keep some open, some closed, and stuff like that. This is the perfect way to do it in just a click. And then what we got, let's just keep it all open. And then we got the probability left, right, and you kind of guessed it. You can make them all open on the left, like this, or you can make them all open on the right, or somewhere in between. So some will be open left, some will be open right. And here also the seed will control the randomness. So those who are opening on the left can be open on the right, and so on and so on. And then we got the probability top hang or standard opening, which is, so this is 100% standard opening. So it's opening like this, but you know that top hang mode also exists, and this is what I'm talking about. So this is the top hang. So it's like open a bit on the upper side of the window. And this also can be controlled by the seed if you want them some to be open like a bit standard, a bit top hang. So this is what controls which one will be which. And if you set them all to top hung, you can control the distance, not the angle, because depending on the height of the window, the angle will always be different, but it's actually the distance of this point to the inner frame. of the window. So I keep it at 0.15 or something like that, or 0.2. Anyway, and another thing, you can remember what I was talking about, the orientation of the red blue face, and this keeps all windows facing the direction where the blue face is facing. And here with one button you can change all the orientation of all windows, so just like that. So now they're all facing upwards. Depends on whether you're creating an exterior or interior rendering, and that's why this button is here. Okay, let's move on. The handle, this is just a handle. So this is a procedurally created handle, but you can create your own custom. Let me just change the opening to standard so you can see a bit better. So this is a handle, and you'll notice if I'm closing all the windows, the handle will face in the right direction, and if it gets open, then it will also face in the right direction, as well as in top hung mode, where the handle will be facing up. And that's why here we have a custom handle object that you can choose any object to be your base object and your knob object. And why these two objects? Because this handle is made out of two objects. So this is the base object, and it will always stay fixed, while this handle object will move according to the opening of the window. So if it's top hung, it will face up, and if it's closed, it will face down, and so on. And anyway, if you select this custom hand object, you can choose whatever object you want to replace the original handle, and you can obviously hide the handle if you do not want it. Let me just keep it on. Okay, and then we have the sill. So the sill is right here, and there are a couple of parameters other than hiding it and showing it. Another thing to show maybe is that you will notice that if my face of the window is in this dimension, this sill will not go below this face, but it will all stay inside the face of that window. And the same thing goes for the blind boxes that we'll see in a minute. Now let me just change the sill thickness, for example. See that it's the window that gets a bit smaller instead of just moving the sill down. And then we got this side overlap, which is this little value here, which is also most of the time it's going to be like 2 centimeters like this, but you can do whatever you want. Obviously this one is symmetrical, so as you can see, side overlap like this, and it happens to all windows. And then we have the inner depth sill and outer depth sill, and this is practically the distance from the frame to how long the sill extends outwards and inwards. And if you set it to 0, then it's just under the outer frame, and it will probably be something like this or like this. Okay, that is it. Then we have the blinds. So the blinds are here, and just like the opening of the windows, the blinds, and let me just change the material of the blinds so we see them better. Let's just put something, I don't know, like this. And you can see the blinds now better with this black color. And as you can see, just like with the opening, you can set the same size of the blinds as well as the random size. But the size is actually the percentage of the window. So if this size is 0.5, then it means that half the window is going to be closed, even though the window is, I don't know, 40 centimeters high or 2 centimeters high. It will always be half closed if the size is 0.5. So let's just see if we set the same size, so everything is the same size, all the windows are half closed. 1 is going to close them all, and 0 will open them all like this. Let's keep it at 0.5, and we can always hide or show the blinds. And if we set the random size, just like with the openings, the maximum size is going to be set to 1, and then all the windows will just choose like a random number between 0 and the maximum, which is 1. So it can happen that some blinds are fully open, and it can happen that some are fully closed. And you can control the seed with this, so you can change like this. And this is also very useful when creating big buildings with lots of windows. And then we have this last parameter with the blinds, which is adjust blinds position. And let's just use it like this, so you can see that if it's 0, then it's right next to the frame, and if it's a bit over, then you can like move it where you want it. Somewhere around here would probably be good. And then we have that show blinds box. So now we have also the blinds box, and here also you can use the overlap, which is the same kind of side overlap we saw with the sill. You can do the same thing with the blinds box, and you can set its height, and just like the sill lowers and decreases the height of the window if we make it bigger. And then we have that outer depth, inner depth, the same thing with the sill. So moving it out or moving it in like this. Okay, and let's move on. We have the hinge. So the hinge is, let's just close all windows, and let's maybe just hide the blinds. And now we can see from the inside the hinges. So show hinges, and here they are. So these are just like simple geometry hinges that are placed up and down. So if we change the orientation of the window, you can see that the hinges as well as the handle move on the other side. And you can also change the object with this. So you can use your own custom hinges, but these defaults one are really simple and are there just to show you the position of where your eventual hinge will be placed. And the only parameter here is this hinge height, which actually moves those hinges in the direction downwards if we're talking about the upper hinge, or upwards if we're talking about the lower hinge. So you can see what happens. You can place them like this, and this one is not the percentage of the window height, but it is actually the dimension in meters. So the distance from the lower point of the window to where actually you want to place the hinge. Okay, let's move on. And now we reach the materials, and it's pretty simple. And so you'll have these empty boxes in which you can choose whichever material you want. So the glass would probably be glass. We can use whatever we want for handles. We can use whatever we want for the sill, and so on and so on. The hinge also, whatever. And the important thing to know about these materials is that they can also be textured. And we have this kind of UV mapping going inside this procedural windows, and it works like this. So you need to type here something. So let's just, I don't know, UV test. And then you need to go into this material, into the shading workspace like this, and choose that material. So this is the wood material, and we need to add this attribute node into the texture coordinates like this. So vector socket to the vector of the mapping. And we need to type that same thing we typed into our UV attribute box. So what was it? UV test, was it? And as you can see, now our windows are nicely textured. So this is the only thing you need to worry about. So remember, attribute node, plug the vector into the vector, and this value here needs to be the same value you type here. And then once you apply this geometry, UV map will be created. So no worries about that. Okay, we're almost there. And then we have also this scale. So you can scale the texture, as you can see, as well as rotate it. Anyway, let's keep it to 0. And let me show you maybe the most important thing. So if you want to change the size of your windows, as simple as changing the size of the face. Really, there's nothing to it. You just do like this and windows get reshaped in a second, as well as the holes, as you can see. So the holes also get shaped. So if I move you can see that the hole is also changed. And this will speed up your modeling enormously. So let's just see a bit about these wall holes. Remember, it was the first thing that we did. So we created a hole inside the object. We chose the object that was the house. And what happens is, to this house object, this Boolean modifier gets added. But you don't need to worry about it because everything gets controlled from this side panel right here. And what you've got here in the wall holes options, once you create holes, you get some parameters that you can change. You can show the booleans, which are like these invisible boxes that show you how far inside the object this hole gets created. You can control its thickness with this parameter right here. So the smaller the thickness, it can happen sometimes that you don't even make a big enough hole inside that wall. So you need to be careful with that. And then you got also the offset. So the offset is from -1 to +1, and -1 means that whole of this box will go outside of the face. So this is the face, and the whole of the box will go outside of the face in this direction, and the +1 will go on the other side of the face, the whole size of the box. Hopefully that's understandable. So mostly you will keep it at 0. This is just for some special weird situation that may happen. You have that option, but you will probably leave it at 0, which means that from the face you have the half of the thickness in one direction, the other half of the thickness in the other direction from the face, and that's it. And then we have this apply holes into geometry because as you know, these holes are procedural, and if you change the size of this window, the hole will also be created bigger. But you can also apply holes into geometry, and then this holes will become part of your house object geometry, and they will not be procedural anymore. So then when you change the size of the windows, the holes will remain the same size as they were when you applied the geometry, the holes geometry. And that is it for the holes. And then we have these extras which actually apply geometry of the windows. So now you can see that if you go into edit mode of our windows object, you get our faces. But if you were to apply the geometry, then you would lose the procedural aspect of these windows, but you would get geometry that you could edit. So if I do this, apply geometry, then our objects would become, like you can see, part of the geometry, and like normal geometry, you can do whatever you would want with it. And but this is something that you would probably not do. That's the whole point of having procedural windows. And okay, so when for some reason you copy these objects like this, you can see that they are like connected, and as I control one, also the other gets controlled. If you want to make different settings for this other object, you can just make unique, and then you can control them independently from one another, as you can see. If you want to go the other way around, so you like create an object with one type of setting, and you want the other object to have the same exact settings, like materials or frame thickness or stuff like that, you can do the reverse. So just select the ones you want to transfer settings from last. So if I want these not so thick frames, I want to keep selected this one last, so this one is active, and then transfer settings, and then settings are transferred. And then we have that switch for corner windows, which is a bit of an exaggeration, but let me show you what that is. So if I have like this kind of situation, and depending on whether I'm looking at the windows from this face, from this side, or from this side, I would maybe want to have this option to adjustments to switch for corner windows like this. So if I'm facing it, if I'm doing like an interior rendering, then this is what I would want. And if I'm looking at from the outside, then this is what I would go for. Anyway, this is practically it. The only thing I got left to do is this one, the mode thing. So let me just do a short example with that. So if I choose this kind of a object, and I already show you the fixed mode, that is pretty self-explanatory, no handles, no opening, no nothing, just fixed windows. And I showed you the multiple mode, but this double wing mode, as you can see, if you press it and Blender doesn't like what kind of geometry is inside this object, it will tell you you need to have two coplanar faces sharing an edge to use this mode. And why is that? So let me just go back to multiple, and then let me just delete everything that is not this window, and then I will create these two coplanar faces sharing an edge. So for example, let's do this, and now let's go back and choose that double wing mode, and you can see what happens. We created a double wing mode, and you can control this size of one or the other wing just by moving this size of one face or the other. Let's just keep it a bit like this. And then some other parameters appear that weren't here before. This is all the same, and the opening is a bit different because you can choose that turn mode or the top hung mode. And if you use the turn mode, you get different angles or same angle. So if you choose different angles, so as you can see, these two wings are opening with different angles. You can use the same angle, and then you will choose like this angle, or you can use the different angles, and then you'll get the angle from one and the angle for the other wing. You can flip left, right, so that it opens from one side and not the other. So the handle is here or there. And you can also choose to flip opening inside out. That's the same thing that we've got in the multiple mode. And let me just remember if there's something else. Same angle, different angles, flip left, right. No, that is practically it. So this one for now, it works only for single window. So you can have one single window. If I duplicate this, it will not work. But with Blender 4.0, when it gets released, then it would probably be possible to do also the multiple double winged mode. But for now, we have only one, and we need to be happy with that. And that is practically it. I think I showed you everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.